Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another very exciting Star Wars video. So this is not the video I thought I'd be making today, but that's the fun of the Star Wars news cycle. Sometimes you have predictable topics, and other times something breaks that just comes out of nowhere and that you really didn't see coming. Today's video is the latter. We've got some great news for Rogue One's 10th anniversary, but first, the big breaking topic of the day. Tony Gilroy has addressed the rumours that he doesn't get on with Dave Filoni, or to be more specific, that Dave Filoni didn't like Andor, a narrative which has been going since early 2025. It was something I covered at the time. There were rumblings that behind the scenes, with Lucasfilm and before Kathleen Kennedy stepped down, Dave Filoni just didn't think Andor was real Star Wars. But Tony Gilroy seems to disprove that. In a new interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he addresses the rumours. But let's start with the question. So they ask him, Dave Filoni is now co-running Lucasfilm with Lin-Wyn Brennan. He's a George Lucas protege who's known for being a Star Wars purist. Did you ever sense any creative or philosophical disagreements with Filoni? And Tony flat out says, no. We've only met a couple of times, and we've only had half a dozen conversations over the last 10 years. I saw Jon Favreau at a scoring session once. We've always gotten along with those guys, and we've never had anything but high praise for everything they've done. We only have our show because of them, and we've always said that was true. There's no Andor without The Mandalorian. It wouldn't exist, so it's never been anything but cordial and pleasant. Ever, 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 ever. That's 4 evers, guys. And he finishes by saying, I don't know anything that you don't know. I really don't. Now, in all fairness, the rumour did come from a Lucasfilm insider, so it's possible Dave Filoni behind closed doors has one opinion, and then in public, meeting Gilroy, he's nothing but polite. But to be fair, maybe it was a bit overblown, and Tony is right. The Mandalorian walked so Andor could run. The success of it, being renewed for a season 2, in some way, shape or form, it's all thanks to what Jon and Dave did. So from Tony Gilroy's perspective, there is no animosity, no jealousy, no beef, so that's pretty much that. He also talks about fascism, other themes in Andor in this interview, but that one soundbite is the most important. Fundamentally I think Gilroy and Filoni have a very different view of Star Wars. In some ways, Star Wars is Dave Filoni's entire life. He's been at Lucasfilm for over 20 years, he's had conversations with George, he's an integral part of the future of the brand. Whereas Tony Gilroy came in, not the biggest Star Wars fan, doesn't know too much about extended lore, but knows how to craft an amazing story in this specific period of the timeline. That's 2 very different iterations of Star Wars. I understand that Andor is not everyone's cup of tea, but I think both are valid, and I like both Andor and Ahsoka. Do I like every decision Dave Filoni's ever made? No. Do I think there's a chance he himself wouldn't make a show like Andor? Yes. But I suppose you just have to be cautious about these rumours of internal politics. Whether they're true or not, the point of the matter is, in the public arena, both people are cordial to one another, and Andor's come and gone. It's out there. It's part of the Star Wars canon. Will Dave hire creatives like Tony again someday? I really don't know, but for the time being I think this comment settles it. It's all love, all peace. But now my dear friends, let's move on to some great news for Andor and for Rogue One. Arguably the best Star Wars movie of the Disney Star Wars era. Even without the hallway scene, I know fans like to say the only reason Rogue One was good was the Vader moment, but I disagree. I fell in love with so many of those characters. Saw Gerrera, after he made the jump from the Clone Wars to live action, Jyn Erso, one of the best female heroes of the entire Disney Star Wars era, Krennic, Baze Malbus, and of course Cassian himself. And both seasons of the Tony Gilroy Disney Plus show Andor makes the movie so much better on rewatch. And today my friends, we have a really huge announcement by Lucasfilm, and if you've been missing the show, if you've been missing some Andor content, then you don't have very long to wait. 2026 is poised to be a very big year for Star Wars. I don't want to be preemptive and say it's all going to be amazing. I really don't know, but I hope we get at least one win between more Shadow Lord, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, the Vision spin-off The Ninth Jedi, and of course, fingers crossed, Ahsoka Season 2 if it's not been pushed. But there's another huge event closer to the end of the year that a lot of fans have forgotten, the 10th anniversary of Rogue One. Can you believe it's been 10 years? I remember buying a K2SO t-shirt before I saw the movie, and I'm so glad I did. Such a hilarious character, and like I say, made even better by Andor Season 2. But Lucasfilm is already hinting they have some plans, and a few months ago Tony Gilroy was asked if there's going to be a special 10th anniversary screening. In addition, he mentioned the possibility of some Andor episodes attached to it, so for those who've not seen the show, there might be some kind of recap, maybe a couple of essential episodes as the intro before Rogue One, but none of this has been confirmed. What we do have confirmation of today, though, is a series of comics bridging the very small gap between Andor Season 2 and Rogue One. It's a minuscule period of time, Andor on his way to Catherine, but it's 5 issues of one-shot comics focusing on 5 separate characters: Cassian, Saw Gerrera, Jyn Erso, Shiru Timway and Baze Malbus, and of course, Darth Vader himself. What he was up to at the end of Andor, and before he talks to Krennic in Rogue One. Let's take a look at the individual synopses. For Cassian, the journey from Yavin to Catherine was not as smooth as you might think. They say before the heist that shook the galaxy, a lone rebel operative walks into danger. Cassian Andor infiltrates the lawless maze of Catherine, racing against stormtroopers, bounty hunters, and time itself in a tense espionage thrill ride. And I have to be honest, out of all of the synopses for these different comics, this is the one I'm least excited about. I don't know if it's just me, but it doesn't feel like we need this story. We know he gets to Catherine, we know he talks to Tivik. Do we need the literal journey after talking to Bail Organa? And does he need to come across bounty hunters on the way? It doesn't feel very Andor-like, and to be honest, it kind of feels like Disney's milking this. I mean, hopefully it's fun. I will read it, and if you want me to, I'll cover it. But it's not the most inspired story. I feel like so many of the recent comics that try to fill in gaps end up just adding way too much that feels very unrealistic. And sometimes if they make too grandiose a story, it alters canon. Do you guys remember War of the Bounty Hunters? It started out really great, but then it turns out there was so much that went on between the events of Empire with Han Solo in Carbonite and arriving at Jabba's palace. Some of that story with Kira was awesome, and I was a big fan, but then they brought in the Knights of Ren and Holdo, and eventually it just felt like way too much. So, I hope they don't ruin this. So now let's move on to the one for Jyn Erso, a character who was originally going to survive Rogue One with Andor, but of course, just like Cassian, she meets her death on the beach of Scarif. But this takes place just before Rogue One, and the synopsis is this: a prisoner of the Empire and a chance of hope. On the toxic Wobani fields, Jyn Erso's brutal routine shatters when an unlikely crew begs the infamous slicer Liana Halleck to pull off an impossible escape. But now we move on to one of my all-time favourite characters, Saw Gerrera, and I'm interested to see what they're going to do with this, because we already know what he was up to when he arrived on Jeddah. So is this canon adaptation going to stay true to that, or are they going to give us something else? Here's what it says. After proving himself in the Clone Wars, Saw Gerrera was a soldier for the cause of freedom, and was willing to do anything to secure it, including leading a mission deep into Imperial territory. At stake, a source of information that would provide a tactical advantage that could shift the balance of power in the rebels' favour. But is the price to be paid too high? So we know Saw is investigating the Kyber operation, and we also know that Jeddah is where he's gonna die. Then we move on to Shirut and Baze. They share an issue. They're also gonna meet Saw on Jeddah, and their synopsis says this: Baze Malbus and Shiru Timway attempt a covert mission to sabotage a Kyber mine. But when something unexpected stands between them and their objective, the mission becomes far more complex than they ever expected. To succeed, faith will be tested, and an impossible choice must be made. And to me this sounds like Baze Malbus's loss of faith, because once upon a time, just like Shirut, he was a devout member of the Guardians of the Wills, and we know he becomes bitter, cynical, and less monk-like, thanks to the Empire on Jeddah. And then we come on to the most important issue, the one everyone's gonna have their eyes on, Darth Vader. And as you can imagine, because it ties into Rogue One, this issue also deals with Kyber crystals and the Death Star's superlaser. The synopsis is this: Director Orson Krennic's negotiations with the gem-rich planet of Herald have hit a standstill. Its leader, Hark, refuses to allow the Empire to mine its rare Kyber deposits. But when the Emperor catches wind of Krennic's failure, he sends his most trusted acolyte, Darth Vader. Vader is sent to ply the Kyber from Hark by any means necessary. So that's what Vader was up to between Andor and Rogue One. He was sent to negotiate for Kyber crystals. And I hope when they say by any means necessary, we're gonna see Vader go to town. And overall, I think these comics are gonna be pretty fun. I don't know if they're gonna have anything too meaningful in the grand scheme of things, but they are part of an effort to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Rogue. But what do you guys think? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you excited for these stories, or is it just Disney milking it? And if you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you always.